Good afternoon. Okay, we can try that again. Good afternoon. Welcome to the annual President John Adams wreath-laying ceremony on the occasion of the 290th birthday of John Adams. Traditionally, this ceremony includes representatives from the Quincy Navy Reserve Center and members of the band, the Navy Band. Unfortunately, they are not able to attend this year. But here at the Church of the Presidents, here in the City of the Presidents, we are honored to continue the tradition of the presidential wreath-laying ceremony. So I extend great gratitude to the Quincy Police Department for stepping in to the role often taken by the Navy Reserve Center. And we're especially sad the Navy can't be here today because this year is the 250th anniversary of the Navy. It is always our tradition to process in with the Navy hymn, and today we do so with abundant gratitude for the Navy on their birthday.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the citizens of Quincy and a grateful nation, I present this wreath on President John Adams' 290th birthday. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, post the colors.
Please be seated. On behalf of the congregation at United First Parish Church, I am pleased to welcome you to the 290th birthday celebration for President John Adams and the wreath-laying ceremony. We are grateful for your presence here today. We extend special gratitude to Norman Corey, our music director emeritus, and to the Quincy Choral Society, led by Sarah Labrie, for the musical portion of our program. To the Quincy Police Department Honor Guard, led by Lieutenant Paul Coughlin, and to those giving remarks today, the Honorable Thomas Koch, Mayor of Quincy, Steve Robinson, Adams family descendant, Bill Westland, church historian, our student speakers, Naima Mantaban from Woodward School, Rithwik Pratipati from North Quincy High School, Natalie Smith from Quincy High School. Thank you to all our elected representatives attending today, UFPC members and friends, History and Visitor Program tour guides, welcome all. Please join us for birthday cake reception in the Parish Hall following the ceremony. Now I'd like to invite Reverend Rebecca Froome to give the invocation.
I invite you to take a deep breath together, feeling that spirit of life and love that moves within, between, and beyond us all. And with this shared breath of life moving among us, let us lift our hearts in the spirit of prayer and invocation, listening in these words for the language of faith most meaningful to you. Eternal presence, known by many names, known in many ways, source of our being, many of us know as God. We gather this afternoon in a historic place for a historic moment, aware of the many ancestors who have sat in these pews, that have spoken in this room, that have lifted their voices in song, that in this place have turned their hearts and minds to their deepest values. In this time of many unknowns in our country, we turn our attention to the life and legacy of a man who lived through many, many uncertain times, President John Adams. As we reflect on his life that began right here in this corner of Massachusetts, let us be mindful of the opportunities and possibilities before each of us in this living moment in history. May our hearts and minds be open to the words of one another, and may we make this space reverent and sacred together by our own deep attention. We pray this in love's name. Amen, and blessed be. And I invite the Honorable Mayor Koch to come and offer greetings from the city of Quincy.
Thank you, Reverend Froome, Mr. Robinson, distinguished guests, Veronica from the police department. I know we have friends here from the Park Service, from the Historical Society, from our Welcome Center. Thank you to all of what you do in welcoming people to Quincy and continue to tell the important story of the Adamses forward. Thank you to our students here today and to the student speakers. I'm anxious and looking forward to their remarks as they reflect on the gift of John Adams and the U.S. Navy. There's times when I'm in my office and wonder, what would John Adams think? What would Abigail Adams think? And I was having some of those thoughts this morning. And I certainly believe he'd be very disappointed right now in the lack of national unity. You know, he was concerned about polarization. He was concerned about the party system, and some of what he talked about has come to be. So let us continue to, at the local level, be the example for the national level, continue to have dialogue, to talk, to come together to try to meet the solutions of the day. John Adams's contributions to this country are innumerable. He wrote the state constitution, the first to pen the importance of public education. We take it for granted today. That was a big deal at the time. It's hard to imagine the revolution without John Adams. A brilliant, a scholar, an incredible patriot. So on behalf of the people of Quincy, we say thank you for the gift of John Adams. To the Navy, we say happy birthday. The Marines' birthday's coming up. To the Marines, happy birthday. And for those that are serving us around the world, keep them in your prayers and thoughts that they may be safe as they keep the peace. May God continue to bless these United States of America. Enjoy the day.
And I invite Steve Robinson forward to share remarks on behalf of the Adams family.
Reverend Fromm, Mayor Koch, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, students, teachers, and parents. On behalf of the Adams Memorial Society, welcome to the United First Parish Church to celebrate the 290th birthday of President John Adams. This year, we gather to honor two enduring forces in American history: the steadfast spirit of President John Adams and the proud 250-year legacy of the United States Navy. In October of 1775, as the fires of the Revolution began to spread, John Adams stood before the Continental Congress with a bold conviction. He urged his fellow delegates that a free America must have ships that could defend her commerce, protect her shores, and secure her independence. At a time when the colonies possessed no fleet, no shipyards, and few resources, his proposal was a daring leap of faith in the American spirit. The Continental Congress endorsed John Adams' resolution and made a bold and uncertain decision to create a naval force to defend a nation not yet fully born. With that decision, the Continental Navy was born. Its first vessels were modest, merchant ships, hastily converted for war, but its purpose was profound. Adams believed that maritime strength was essential, not just for defense, but for the dignity and independence of the new nation. As Adams would later write, a naval power is the natural defense of a free people. Adams foresaw that our survival would depend on ships that could protect our coasts, our trade, and our people. His foresight laid the keel for what would become one of the greatest maritime forces in history. Through the centuries, that force, our United States Navy, has grown from a handful of converted merchant privateers into a global fleet that safeguards liberty on every horizon. From the Barbary Wars to the Battle of Midway, from humanitarian missions to the cutting-edge operations of today, the Navy has lived out Adams's vision, a force not only of might, but of moral purpose. John Adams would be proud to see how the Navy has carried forward the ideals he helped forge: courage in the face of danger, discipline in the face of uncertainty, and service above self. He would see in every sailor's dedication the living proof that his dream of a strong, independent America has endured. As we mark this 250th anniversary, we do more than celebrate history, we reaffirm a promise that the Navy will continue to defend freedom, uphold peace, and carry forward the legacy of those who first set sail under our flag. Let us remember that Adams's belief in a Navy was not just strategic, it was philosophical. He believed that the strength of a republic rested not only in its words, but in its ability to defend those words. The Navy to Adams was the embodiment of American resolve, a reminder that liberty must be guarded and that peace is best preserved by those prepared to protect it. President Adams never sought personal glory. His legacy was one of service to country, to principle, and to posterity. He believed that a republic must be both virtuous and vigilant, grounded in law and sustained by sacrifice. In many ways, those same virtues define the men and women of the Navy today, those who stand the watch so that others may live free. As we lay this wreath, may it symbolize our gratitude for Adams's wisdom, for the Navy he helped create, and for the freedom both have secured. Thank you for listening.
Regrettably, Lieutenant Commander Wesley Schlesinger is not able to deliver his prepared remarks today. And gratefully, with gratitude, I invite our church historian, Bill Westland, to share some remarks on the 250th of the Navy.
This is probably the first time that an let's say, corporal in the Army is going to talk in place of a commander in the Navy about John Adams and the birth of the Navy. So it's a one-time proposition. And John Adams really started an awful lot of the military services because the same year that he was the chairman of the committee that actually recommended that the Navy start, he also was the one that introduced a resolution to make George Washington the general in charge of all the armies. And also, believe it or not, the same year the Marines were formed. There wasn't an Air Force yet because there weren't any airplanes, but nevertheless, he was sort of involved in this. And the first, when the committee voted to form a Navy, and as was mentioned before, the first ship was commissioned in October of that 1775. It wasn't built because it was already a frigate, and it was called the Alfred, as you know before. It was converted into a warship. And believe it or not, the commanding officer of it was John Paul Jones. And so some people think that John Paul Jones was actually the one who formed the Navy. But no, it really was John Adams. And so this committee on the Continental Congress, and having authorized the first Navy and so forth, and now all during the Revolutionary War, John Adams realized that if it hadn't been really for the French Navy, we might have lost that war. And so he realized how important having a Navy really was. And so when he was elected president, he actually formed the Navy Department and authorized 6 frigates to be built. One of them being the USS Constitution. And just a little bit of trivia here. When the Constitution was built, and I think it took about 3 years to build it, and the actual cost of that ship was $300,300. A lot of money back in those days. And if you have been reading recently about the carrier Gerald Ford being now assigned in the Pacific, that carrier cost $4.4 billion So you can see the changes as far as the price of warships and so forth. But Adams was correct. And later on, when John Quincy Adams was president, and of course he was the one really, beyond when he was president, he was Secretary of State, that introduced the Monroe Doctrine, which you read about a lot now. And now there was no foreign powers involving themselves really down there in the Caribbean. So anyway, John Adams was always interested in the Navy. He realized, I think from the very beginning, that especially New England depended upon merchant ships, because we had so much trade with Europe, and so therefore they needed protection. And so he was the one that really started it all. And also that's the reason why when this first presidential wreath-laying ceremony, actually started with Lyndon Johnson, that the Navy was actually selected to represent the President of the United States. And the Navy has been with us until this year, every single one of these wreath-laying ceremonies. And of course, you also had the Adams connection too. Charles Francis Adams III was Secretary of the Navy during the Hoover administration. And so I just want to wish John Adams a happy birthday. And I also want to, if the commander that was supposed to be speaking is listening someplace, I just want to say we miss you. We hope to be back in July when we have the same ceremony for John Quincy Adams. Thank you very much.
It is the tradition each October for the John Adams Presidential Wreath-Laying Ceremony to have student speakers from Quincy's 3 high schools. And so I invite forward Nahima Montalban from the Woodward School to deliver remarks.
Thank you, Reverend Fromm, President Jackson Miller, and Mr. Westland for your invitation to the Woodward School. I am honored to be here today with Mayor Koch, members of the Adams family, distinguished guests, my classmates, and students from North and Quincy High School to celebrate President John Adams' 290th birthday. While I am not from Quincy, over the past 7 years, I have spent the majority of my time here attending the Woodward School with my sisters, both literal and figurative. Attending school in such a historic place has afforded me opportunities I know are unique. From walks to Peacefield to take pictures with my classmates, or walks to the Dorothy Quincy House to tour life in the 18th century, I know most students don't have access that we do to history. I began attending Woodward in 2019 with my sister, Nyla, whose graduation was held right here in this room in 2024. It is where my classmates and I will celebrate our commencement in June. We know what a privilege it is to be able to celebrate these milestones in our lives in such a special place. 2019 was also the first time I sat in these pews to be a part of the celebration. Since that time, this country and the world have experienced what seems to be constant change. A global pandemic, Zoom classes, the Hype House, social distancing, and social unrest. We witnessed wars and atrocities taking place on foreign shores, endemic school shootings, the end of a presidential term followed by 2 presidential elections, and most recently, the unilateral demolition of a portion of the White House, the People's House. Through it all, the one constant, in addition to the support and love of my family, has been the support and love of my community, the Woodward community. A community whose values are inspired by Abigail Adams and her husband, President John Adams. Abigail and President Adams were a package deal and a gift to all of us. Their lives continue to be an example to our community and the country. But the thing is, John Adams isn't just an example. He set the example. Both he and Abigail created the example and a roadmap for each of us to follow. Both Abigail and John Adams based their lives on a simple principle: to be good and to do good. Now, to be good doesn't mean to behave, but to live a principled life filled with learning, to live a life of purpose. Throughout their lives, this sentiment is found, not only in their actions, but also in multiple letters, either directed towards or in reference to their children. They wanted their children to carry on their legacy of public service in service to others. When John Adams wrote to his daughter Nabby on March 17, 1777, from Philadelphia, he first asked her about her studies and told her about a girls' school he visited on his way to Philadelphia and how impressed he was with what they were learning. He also stated, "You are now, I think, far advanced in your 12th year, a time when the understanding generally opens and the youth begin to look abroad into that world among whom they are to live. To be good and to do good is all we have to do." While in Paris in 1785, Abigail wrote to her sister Elizabeth regarding her children and said, "Acquiring such a fund of learning and knowledge as may render them useful to themselves and beneficial to society, the great purpose for which they were sent into the world. That knowledge which is obtained in early life becomes every day more useful. To be good and do good is the whole duty of man, comprised in a few words. But what field does it open to our view? And how many characters may grow from this root, whose beautiful branches may shade the oppressed, may comfort the dejected, may heal the wounded, make sure the sick, may defend the invaded, may enrich the poor. In short, those who possess the disposition to be good and to do good will never want employment." This principle informed President Adams in the establishment of our government. It was instilling moral values within an educated citizenry that would ensure the freedom of the people. Right up the street from here, he enshrined education into the Massachusetts Constitution, which became the framework for the Constitution, and as he put, are the same as much as an original and a copy are the same, was calculated and framed for the express purpose of securing to all men and women equal laws and equal rights. He based his framework on the belief that, as he stated, government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for the profit, honor, private interest of any one man, family, or class of men. When John Adams included education into Section 2 of Chapter 6 of our Constitution, he stated directly that it is the duty of our government to educate all of us, highlighting science and literature as required to achieve the knowledge and wisdom necessary to preserve our rights and liberties to sustain our democracy. But education, he believed, also had another purpose. to instill the values to be good and to do good. As he wrote in Section 2, it was to countenance and inculcate the principles of humanity and general benevolence, public and private charity, industry and frugality, honesty and punctuality in their dealings, sincerity, good humor, and all social affections, and generous sentiments among the people. Both John and Abigail understood human nature. A democracy, liberty would be lost if citizens only thought about themselves and ignored the humanity of others, awareness of others, consideration of others, kindness towards others, empathy for others, and a spirit of generosity would be fundamental to preserving our rights. John Adams stated plainly, "The preservation of liberty depends upon the intellectual and moral character of people. Ambition is one of the more ungovernable passions of the human heart. The love of power is insatiable and uncontrollable. There is danger from all men. The only maxim to a free government ought to be to trust no man living with the power to endanger the public liberty." John and Abigail Adams both knew that the ideas of liberty and equality were easy to achieve in society because of the other aspects of human nature, greed, envy, ambition, that could endanger these foundational principles and ultimately our rights. At the same time, it did not stifle their resolve to hold others to these standards. In 1797, during John Adams' presidency, Abigail wrote to him about an incident that took place in this neighborhood where we are today. James Prince, a young man who worked for the Adamses, asked if he could attend a course being given at the school. He would pay for the course himself. Abigail encouraged him and gave permission to the teacher who accepted him into the class. Abigail revealed to John that a week after the course began, neighbor Faxon came to tell her that if James didn't withdraw from the class, the other boys taking the course would drop out. When asked what the complaint was, had he acted inappropriately? Faxon's response was, "Oh no, there was no complaint of that kind, but they did not choose to go to school with a black boy." Abigail responded, Did these lads ever object to James playing for them when at a dance? Pray, who are they? Why did they not come here themselves? This, Mr. Faxon, is attacking the principle of liberty and equality upon the only ground which it ought to be supported, an equality of rights. The boy is a freeman as much as of any other young man, and merely because his face is black, is he to be denied instruction? How is he to be qualified to procure livelihood? Is this a principle of doing to others as we would have others do to us? Needless to say, neighbor Faxon left having changed his mind, and James Prince continued his studies without further complaint. John Adams once said, "Posterity, you will never know how much it cost our present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you'll make very good use of it. Right now, I worry we the people might not be making good use of it. Well, I attend a school whose values closely resemble the ones that both John and Abigail believed were crucial to liberty and equality, generosity, integrity, respect, responsibility, leader, and scholarship. I'm afraid these values are not being diffused generally among the body of the people. Today, public debate and discourse has been replaced with online trolling. Hateful rhetoric against the most marginalized groups has been normalized, and fundamental principles of humanity focusing on the common good are being ignored and replaced with a cacophony of personal grievances. I don't actually know what the solution is. It's pretty overwhelming, if I'm being honest. But I also know that John and Abigail face the same issues, besides the TikTok and trolling part, but you get what I mean. The turmoil of their time did not stop them by living to their principles, to be good and to do good, and devoting themselves to others, their community and country. I think what we can do in our own lives is to continue to follow their example, to never stop learning, never stop helping, never stop believing in the humanity of others, and never giving up on the America that the Adamses has dreamed for us. Thank you.
And I invite Rithwik Pratapati from North Quincy High School to deliver remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rithwik Pratipati, and I'm a sophomore at North Quincy High School. and I'm proud to call Quincy, Massachusetts my home. Today we gather to celebrate the 290th birthday of John Adams right here at the Church of the Presidents, his resting place and a cornerstone of Quincy's history. Born on October 30th, 1735, in a humble cottage on Franklin Street, this young boy would soon grow up to become the second president of the United States of America. Adams served as a diplomat in France and the Netherlands, helping secure critical loans and negotiating a peace treaty with Great Britain that allowed the fledgling American government to survive. He also played a key role in the Continental Congress, working alongside Thomas Jefferson and other founding fathers to shape the very nation we call home today. He upheld the principles of equal freedom and drew upon John Locke's philosophy, believing that every individual is entitled to natural rights. Beyond his political achievements, Adams valued knowledge and education, believing that an informed and virtuous citizenry was essential to preserving liberty, a belief that continues to inspire students here in Quincy today. He thought that being well-educated was a staple in American life, as the life of a young, educated child would soon grow up to be a person who collectively helps the United States of America to grow in knowledge and value. In his 1765 essay, A Dissertation on Canon and Feudal Law, he said, "Liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people." His quote exemplifies how the next generation must be educated in order to pursue and preserve liberty in our society. He also listed in the letters of Thoughts on Government that laws for the liberal education of youth are so extremely wise and useful that to a humane and generous mind, no expense for this purpose would be thought extravagant. His beliefs were to ensure everyone had education so that America would be a prosperous and educated country. Adams's achievements weren't a personal success to him. It was a service to the nation. John Adams never chased power or fame. He saw leadership as a way to serve others. Whether he was representing Massachusetts in the Continental Congress, negotiating peace across nations, or guiding a new country as its second president, his goal always remained the same: to protect the country he helped create. His contributions also helped create the great republic government that has the vote of the people and hears people's voices. That is exactly what John Adams would have imagined for the future of his country. John Adams had great moral courage and integrity while he served for his country. He never sought power or political gain when he ruled. He also supported what was right and just, as there was much controversy after he was the defendant of the British Battalion after the Boston Massacre. Though this was unpopular and gained hate towards him early on, he still stood firm as he believed in justice and equity. During his presidency, he resisted going to war with France in 1789 during the Quasi-War, hoping that peace through diplomacy would stop the naval conflict between these two conflicts. He was well aware that having leadership means having resistance for power, and serving his nation was at his utmost priority. John Adams had great ties to his hometown, Quincy, Massachusetts. He sought to bring education and knowledge to his town by deeding over 200 acres of land to fund a classical school. Though the school wasn't built during his lifetime, Adams Academy became one of the most prestigious preparatory schools during the time. As he was buried right here at the Church of the Presidents, this building symbolizes his presence to the city, and it recognizes how his achievements and foundations helped bring this country together. One quote that stood out to me while enveloping in research about John Adams comes from a letter he wrote to his wife, Abigail. He said, "I must study politics and war, that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy." This quote recognizes not only his contributions to his country, but also recognizes how his contributions help our generation to fulfill knowledge and education for every one of us. Another quote states from Chapter 5, Section 2 of the Massachusetts Constitution that wisdom and knowledge, as well as virtue, diffuse generally among the body of the people, being necessary for the preservation of their rights and liberties. This also reiterates how his importance and value for education defines the Constitution as it is in the law that everyone must be educated to preserve their rights and liberties. As I conclude today's speech, I'd like to say that John Adams is one of the most remarkable people in early American history. and his achievements and his legacy will forever be remembered by the citizens of Quincy, Massachusetts, and the United States of America. Thank you for your time.
And I invite Natalie Smith from Quincy High School to share remarks.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to stand here in front of you all today, celebrating one of our hometown American patriots and his 290th birthday, John Adams. Here among the same hills and harbors that shaped his youth, we remember not only the man who built our nation, but also our neighbor, father, and citizen whose life continues to set an example for his country and community. John Adams once wrote, "Public virtue cannot exist in a nation without private virtue, and public virtue is the only foundation of republics." In those few words, Adams captured what he believed every American must strive for, that the strength of our nation begins with the strength of our character. Adams lived by the quote even before he became president or diplomat. In 1770, when most of Boston was angry and fearful after the Boston Massacre, he made the unpopular decision to defend the British soldiers accused of murder. During the trial, he reminded the jury, "Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence." This was a defining moment, a man willing to stand on principle even if he stood alone. As a leader, Adams carried the same sense of moral responsibility into the Revolution and beyond. He was among the first to call for independence, helped draft the Declaration of Independence, and later served as our second president. When war with France threatened the new republic, Adams once again made the difficult and deeply unpopular choice to keep America at peace. He once said, "Because power corrupts society's demands for moral authority, and character increases as the importance of the position increases." Few embodied that truth better than Adams himself, a leader guided by concise, not ambition. Writing to his beloved wife, Abigail, Adams said, "I must study politics and war so that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy." Those words remind us that Adams saw his life work not as a self-promotion, but as a service, a gift to future generations. Adams also believed that the survival of the Republic depended on knowledge and participation. He urged Americans to, "Let us tenderly and kindly cherish the means of knowledge. Let us dare to read, think, speak, and write." That call to think critically, to stay informed, and to engage is as vital now as it was in his time. Posterity, you will never know how much it costs the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you make good use of it. Those words remind us not just to honor John Adams, but to live up the standard he set, to make a good use of the freedom he helped secure by being active, informed, and principled members of our community. John Adams' life was not one of ease or constant popularity. Through every challenge, he held firm to his beliefs in virtue, in life and in public service, as the foundation of liberty. His example, born here in Quincy, still speaks to us, that true greatness lies not in power, but in principle. So today, as we celebrate his 290th birthday in the town he called home, let us carry forward his message. To be good and to do good is all we have to do. Thank you.
We will now place the wreath from the President of the United States on the tomb of President John Adams. Please remain seated until the presentation is complete. We will return to retire the colors.
is to lay our hands on the tomb in respect, return to that deep breath of life and love, and with gratitude for the life and legacy of President John Adams. We lay this wreath of appreciation upon his tomb. May his memory be a blessing, and may our lives be guided by the highest ideals that we shared. Amen.
Amen.
Let us return to that breath of life that is always there to ground and guide us. Friends, we have gathered this afternoon indeed with open hearts and minds, listening to the wisdom of our time, influenced by the wisdom of John Adams all those generations before. As we go forth into the day, let us continue to be inspired by his ideals. Let us do good and be good. Even when the winds of our times blow around, let us chart a course with courageous love, with a depth of integrity, so that we might continue to serve our country, to defend our democracy, and to be a blessing to the world. May we go in peace and go in love to be that blessing to the world. Amen.
Please stand. Color guard, retire the colors. And salute.